Welcome back to This Week in Indies. When we're creating stories, we have these background characters that we use to help enhance the protagonist and antagonist journeys. They play key roles like plot devices and adding color and authenticity to our worlds. And yet somehow, some way, they steal the scenes they're in and force us to pay attention to them. Even more so, audiences notice this and then gravitate to them as well. So we will discuss the appearance of these accidental tourists with our Roundtable Discussion Panel. Then C.L. Cannon will be along with indie books you might enjoy if you are a fan of the Clockwork Angels and the Infernal Devices series. Plus, we will continue JD Estrada's March of the Writers series with not only giving you this week's prompts, but the Roundtable will actually be fulfilling one of those live. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get to chatting about these things and more for This Week in Indies with your host, Joe Compton. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. Welcome to This Week in Indies. Yes, I am your host, Joe Compton. And if we all lag a little bit, it's because the stupid hour thing messes us all up. But I think we'll be fine. But welcome to the show. It's nice to have you all here. And it's going to be a wonderful discussion. I think this topic's a lot of fun. And I'm really excited to have the people I have joining me, which you can see right here. Look at all this. Look at these wonderful, lovely people. We're getting started. Anita's here. Hello, Anita. Nice to see you. So let's go down the list and say hello to everybody. Sean, start us off, please.
I'm SM Hillman, professionally, just drawing every other time. You can find my blog and links to my current book at theweirdboys.com. I also host a couple shows and actually occasionally host this one as well here on the GoNew Network.
Yeah, nice. All right, Patrick.
Hey, I'm Patrick Dugan. You can find me at linktree/Patrick Dugan. I write science fiction and fantasy, and I am a 3D printing enthusiast that I do a lot of stuff at the convention circuit now with 3D printing. So that's me.
Nice. Claudia?
Hi, I'm Claudia Blood. I'm a sci-fi and urban fantasy author, and I am located at claudiablood.com. We'll keep it simple.
Nice. All right, Paige.
Hi, I'm Paige L. Christie, and I write epic fantasy, feminist fantasy, sometimes with an Old West overtone and a little bit of contemporary fantasy. And you can find me at pageLchristie.net. Thanks.
I chuckled at the Old West reference because I just, I'm reading Paige's books, so I'm like, yes, there is that. It's pretty cool. Bob's here, everybody. Say hello to Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
All right, so let's talk about this. I deemed it the accidental tourist because oftentimes we get these characters that we have designs for most of the characters we create and put in there, but we don't have designs for how big they get sometimes. And these characters tend to come in here and jump in and take over. And so I'm curious, to start the conversation out, what do you do when that happens? Do you just roll with it? Do you fight it? How do you handle when a character's voice gets louder than you intended it to be to start with?
I think the question is whether or not it's good for the story is kind of the key. So if it's not good for the story and puts it on a wild goose chase or is actually a separate story, that's the key to what you do with that character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm
agree with
not.
Claudia.
I don't plan
ahead.
anything. Sorry, Patrick.
Oh,
I
you're
don't.
good.
I'm a pantser. I don't plan anything, and so yay, Claudia. um, when someone takes over, in my case, they get their own book in the middle of the series. Um, and part of that has to do also with reader response. Like if I have something in my head and I start getting feedback from readers that something's important, I try to pay attention to that.
And it's often the character. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick. We're just running right over Patrick today, everybody.
Yeah, we're good. Patrick's not awake. It's daylight savings time. I'm just like, okay. I think Claudia was right. It depends on the story. Victoria in my steampunk books took off so much, I actually switched POV characters for the second book because people loved her so much. So she was not supposed to ever be a main character. Quinn was supposed to be the main character through the whole series, and it just got to the point where I was like, everybody's like, "Oh, I like Victoria better." I'm like, "Okay, we'll do that." She's a lot of fun to write.
I tend to be a pantser as well. So they really are unexpected when they come up. But I think too, it has a lot to do with how they're relating to the other characters as well. If they stick out like a sore thumb, and it's obvious that I just like this character too much, I will trim them back a bit or delete them. But if they're starting to riff with the other characters, then absolutely I leave them in there and I make space for them.
What do you find is the most common tourist for you? Is it the funny one, the one that wants to steal the show? Is it the one that wants to cause havoc? Where do you find you get these characters jumping in most of the time for you, in what capacity?
For me, I think in my case, in this specific case, that is the reason I wanted to be on this show. It was because the foil I created with this character, with my two initial protagonists, was one of competence and knowledge, and not the wise old person who comes in and shows, but a peer who had vastly different experience, that's kind of a mystery to everybody, the readers, the other characters, that kind of shone through, that there was knowledge there that the other characters didn't have, that it wasn't being hidden, it just was existing in the background and coming out in very important ways, which actually led me to change the entire ending of the series once I figured out what that knowledge was. And so for me, it was just a level of solidity and confidence that this character brought that just grounded the entire series and kind of took over.
That's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How about everybody else?
I'm on Team Pantser as well. I don't think we have any plotters here. So everything is a surprise. For me, it's usually the comedian. I tend to write my POV characters as more the more the straight man. And so, like in Shadowblade's Air, my thief is, cracks up every scene, but he's not the main character. So it just adds a lot of flavor and a lot of fun to the story. But if you're not stuck in his head for 3 books, going, is he ever going to stop?
Yeah, I do think it's that mystery element. Suddenly they're on the screen and something happens, and you're kind of like, wait a minute, what? And then it turns into a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I think mine are mostly ancillary characters who may get a line or two here, and then suddenly they're actually more interesting than that. But they'll usually play off the main characters, in that if the main character is a bit of a sarcastic individual, this person will be very serious. And then the opposite, right? If the big character is very serious, they'll be a bit sarcastic. They'll bring that opposite energy to what the main characters have, whether it be the protagonist or antagonist. Something of not necessarily always funny, but the court jester, right? Who's always kind of just skirting the edge of propriety by asking the ruler if what they're doing is the best thing to be doing, and with humor or with whatever they do it.
So do you find that you develop these stories for protagonist and antagonist, right? And do you find the competition aspect of it to come across when you get these tourists that kind of start to inject themselves and be much more prevalent in here? Do you find like the protagonist, the protagonist and antagonist are just adjusting and it becomes a different story for you? Or do you try and keep the protagonist and antagonist on pace and just kind of figure out how to sprinkle in the accidental tourist?
I mean, we're all pantsers, so we're winging it.
Right.
Comes in and we're like, "Ooh, what can I do with this? Let's. Maybe I'm not heading that direction. Let's go somewhere else."
So you just like, screw it. Maybe there's another protagonist that I didn't know about.
I don't know about you guys, but my pantser, I know I'm going to Alaska. I have no idea how I'm getting there, but I know I'm going to Alaska. And if I have to take a side trip through New Jersey to get there because of this character, all right, let's go.
It's a hell of a side trip.
Yeah, in my case, it was, I started off thinking I was writing one book. It turned into two, and I said, oh, well, I guess this is a trilogy because I'm not done yet. And then I realized that the only way to end the series was if I added a fourth book that was from the point of view of this side character. And then my third book ended up being 3 points of view instead of, I started with 2 points of view, 2 points of view, 1 point of view, 3 points of view. And so, but the interesting thing about the way that evolved for me was that nobody knew the antagonist didn't know he existed. The antagonist in the story did not factor this character in at all, because they thought he was a side character. Everybody in the book thought he was a side character, except like 2 people who knew better. But everybody. So it was very interesting to me that he never stepped out of that role as far as the other characters in the book were concerned, and so I didn't have to worry about that. It was very strange. I don't know how far you are into the series, Joe, but I'm talking about Kilris. So,
okay.
Spoilers.
Hey.
By the time you get to the middle of the first book, you're like, oh, something's going on here. So yeah, don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I totally knew where you were going, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like the very first story that I ever had published, I began with one protagonist and then switched in the middle. But normally, like I had to rewrite the entire story with a different point of view. But normally for me, it depends on like the length of the story. If it's a short story, I would usually say to the accidental tourist, another time, dude. Yeah, I'll get you into another story. If it's, but the longer the work, the more room there may be to make changes. And like Claudia was saying, as a pantser, that doesn't cause me angst, right? It's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. This is good. Let's go with this. So,
and for you, Patrick.
That's how I ended up with 7 POV characters. You write your book. You start with your idea and you write your book, the best you can. And as characters pop into the world, I mean, Abby and Stormforge was supposed to be in for 2 chapters. She's a major character through the entire series. If I was going to write more, she'd be the main character. I mean, people just absolutely love her. And so, but as the boys, she integrated it. She just was the Borg and assimilated everybody, and we just went on. So that's all you can do.
Sean brings up an interesting point. How much negotiations do you have with these characters? Do you negotiate at all, or do you, if they tell you I'm stepping in here, you just run with it? I mean, or do you kind of go, hang on, dude, let me get through the plot here, and then I'll get you in here somewhere somehow, or we'll make it work. Or how much negotiations are you doing with the characters that you didn't expect to negotiate with?
None.
Like Bob says, we don't negotiate with terrorists. Yeah, I mean,
You beat them.
Just keep going, right? That's what I do. It's like,
Yeah.
Okay, this is how it's going now. It's easier to go back and write the first 4 chapters than it is to kind of like try and switch everything over at the end, or maybe start over completely. It's just like, okay, we're going to go forward with what we've got, and then I'll go back and make the rest work in relation to that, if that's necessary. And often it's not, right? But if I have to go back and change some bits, that's fine.
It's easy for you to say. I had to go back and rewrite a whole thing because I had to change the tense, and
I've done that.
That's a different.
I'm so sorry.
That's awful.
Yeah. Yeah,
I had a friend that rewrote an entire
in the middle
novel.
of that nightmare, but that's still, I mean, it's my own fault.
I had a friend that rewrote an entire book from first person to third,
Boy.
and it was the choice that needed to be made. But oh my god, so no. But yeah, I don't negotiate. They tell me what they're doing. They arrive in my head. They know who they are. When they tell me who they are is when I get rolling. Sometimes that takes a while, but they know, and yeah, I get out of the way.
Though there is a little bit of negotiation. Is it this book that you're actually shining, or is it the next book? Right? Like I feel like there's a little bit.
Can I tempt you with another book?
All right, good, just over here.
Get out my way for this one, please.
Can I write the scene for this book, but actually put it in the next one? Because my beta readers are telling me it doesn't belong here. Yeah, that happens.
And he said he had to do that as well, first to third.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. The pain.
That is awful.
How about for you, Patrick? Was there some negotiation, or you just get
Not
out of
a
it?
bit. Not a bit. I am just there to write down the story as it shows up. So I'm scribed. 12 books in, I'm not changing.
Okay, but you did mention that you changed the POV and you had a design for a character. So did you have to negotiate with that character to kind of say, hey, look, I got to do this POV with this other character?
Not a bit. That's the story.
just bend over and take it, huh? Other character.
Like, I am the god in my worlds. You don't get to. You can beg and plead, but I am not merciful.
What did somebody say that writing fiction is the universe's way of telling you it's not easy being God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or editing God.
Editing God.
It's funny you bring up that. See, I love my panel. My panel's just so on it. It's exactly where I was going next, which is, when the editors start to get into this, into the clawing, and they maybe they know what you were going to do, maybe they didn't, and they start to go. They start to realize that this character is taking over, or it's scene stealing, or what have you. Do they tend to help you lean on pushing them forward? Do you have to kind of convince them, on behalf of the accidental tourist? How does that usually go for you all when some other eyes get onto it?
So I think it depends on the book, to steal Claudia's line. Because the thing is that in certain circumstances, my editor will say to me, like, I love this character. We want to amp them up. Because that, like in my new book that's coming out, my Angel character, everybody loves. He's flamboyant, and she's like, we need more of him. And so we'll go back and sprinkle in some. Sometimes it's a little bit like, this is a little bit too over the top, roll it back a little bit. But it's tweaking, it's not changing. You know what I mean? We're not taking out, we're not pulling that character out of scenes or shoving him back into scenes. It's more of, if they're too talkative in one chapter, we minimize it a little more. And if they're not as present in the second chapter, then we add a little bit more. And because what you want, and I tend to write a lot of books with a cast of characters. And what I always find funny, especially Never Steal from Dragons, there's 7 to choose from. And I have not, and everybody has their own favorites, and the ones I think are the least successful characters are other people's favorite characters. So it really works, but you have basically a smorgasbord to pick from. So pick the character you love, and that's your team. So.
Yep, I would agree with Patrick too, that sometimes you think that the characters are in there more than they are, and the editor will come back and be like, hey, like this guy suddenly showed up in chapter 10. How come we didn't see them sooner? They could have been there. And you're like, oh, they weren't there. They were in my head there, but I must not have gone back and put them back in. So I'll go fix that.
Along with the furniture and
right. My job is as a writer is to try to do my best to make it so that's not an issue.
Yeah.
If I'm doing what I'm doing properly, the editor doesn't have too much to complain about. And I have vicious beta readers who are absolutely ruthless. And so by the time it gets to my editor, it's usually not an issue. But yeah, I try to make sure that I minimize that because that's my job. Mm-hmm. My job is to make what I'm doing work and make it clear for the reader. That's what I'm here to do. And so my editor shouldn't have to beat me around the head and shoulders with a stick to make that happen if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'd rather be arguing about, do you really want to use this word here than does this character have to be here? So yeah, that's kind of where I come at.
Now, but it sounds like the beta readers are that conduit for you in terms of which character.
Yeah, they're gonna get me long before the editors do. and the series is what it is. The series that I'm speaking of that this happened in, because of my beta readers, especially the third book, because I had one who was just insistent that I was not getting it right. And it took me like 4 drafts before she was satisfied. And before I finally caught on to what she was saying, because I was like, no, this is how it is. And she's like, no, it's wrong. And was absolutely vicious about it. And then I finally, at midnight one night, like you do when you wake up and the characters are talking to you. And I went, oh, shit, she's right. So, pardon my French. But without her, the whole series wouldn't have worked. So, yeah, you want the ruthless there so that your editor is just nitpicking, as far as I'm concerned.
My editor is my ruthless past. So,
for you, Sean.
Actually, it's the people the alpha beta readers who will say this. They'll say, "Who's this character? What are they doing there?" And I'm like, "Okay, gotcha." Loud and clear. I'll tweak that. Rarely, I kind of listen to that. Early on, I would fight back against that, and I guess much like Paige's beta reader, they'd be like, "No, this still isn't working for me." So now I listen a little bit more closely when they say, "Who's this again?" or "What's that character doing there?" or "What are they doing?" or "Why do they have that machine gun? It's a fantasy story. Where'd that come from?" And I'll be like, "Well,
Amazon.
It's all yeah.
Amazon is everything.
Time travel. I'm a pantser. I can do what I want. But no, I'll listen to that. It's like, okay, if they're like, who is this? If they're confused, that's usually my signal for no, this character doesn't work.
Nice. A.L. Mungo says the accidental tourist in his story turned out to be the actual protagonist for the entire series. He said, "No, you're writing about me." Yeah. And I was writing for a different character initially, and boy, did the story change.
Not bad.
And by the way, if you guys didn't see earlier, he mentioned that his first to third book was much better now because he changed it. So. And Anita said, "Yeah, beta readers are eagle-eyed." So.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is why we do 2 to 3 drafts, right? Some people do more than 2 or 3. I try to sneak in with just one, but it never works.
Never.
None of us are Ray Bradbury.
Sorry.
But again, see, you guys are awesome. Again, you're going to lead me into what I was about to talk about next, which is, I'm curious. having now, you all are savvy. You've written a lot, and you're four of my favorite people and four of my favorite writers. So I'm curious, do you can you self-identify these characters when they come across for you now? Is it an automatic thing? Do you automatically know, oh shit, I'm in trouble, I'm about to get, this character is about to run me over, right?
Yep.
Right after the scene.
Yep. Or they'll say something and you're like, oh.
Wait, no. That's not where we're going. Oh no, that's where we're going. Okay.
I hope you packed your boots because it's raining over here. I mean,
let's go.
Did you find that that was easy for you to do originally, or did that take some time to take some writing to figure that out?
It took me a while not to fight against it.
Yes, that.
I think now I leave space for that character in a lot of times. I'll
add the walls.
Right. Yes, I'll prepare. Like I'll write over. It's like, there should probably be someone here maybe, but we'll keep going, and then a little later on that character will develop. I'm like, okay, here you go, and you're back here. It's that kind of thing. So I leave a little bit of space for them now.
Interesting.
And I think if you read books where you've watched it happen, or you've watched TV shows or movies where you've watched it happen, and you're savvy and you're paying attention, you can see it happening in other people's work and in other formats. My favorite example of an accidental tourist is Steve McQueen in the original Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, forget it. He's supposed to be the side character.
He's got all the best lines.
He's got all the best lines, and he's hamming it up, and it's just, there's no way. So you witness it, and then you start to recognize it in your own work.
I know it feels so bad. I don't know.
Han Solo was the first one for me. Han Solo was the one that I recognized immediately. I was like, this guy's going to be the guy that everybody's going to gravitate toward.
Yep.
Yeah, but did you know Boba Fett would be?
No, that's a good point. Good point. Yeah.
That's true.
Or for some people, Lando became that as well.
That's true, yeah.
That's right.
Or Jabba. I don't know any Jabba fans, but maybe they're
You really want to get out there, Admiral Akbar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Red. Yeah.
One line.
Eternal from one line.
One line.
Yeah.
And you do recognize it. You go, the characters I had in the intro. The Jesus from Big Lebowski. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
He got his own movie because everybody was clamoring to find out the Jesus' story, right? So. They made a whole, the Coen brothers said, okay, we're just going to write a whole movie for him. So, I don't know if anybody knew that, but there is a Jesus movie out there. So,
I did not.
So we know it now.
Anyway. So what are some things that I'm curious, what side do these accidental tourists usually fall on? Are they usually on the protagonist side or the antagonist side for you? Or is it a mix? Is it going to depend on the story? Or are we just going to go with that the whole way?
Yeah, consultant answer, it depends.
Just going to get a t-shirt.
But on average, does it go one way or the other for you? On average, does it go one way or the other for you, or is it pretty equal?
For me, I would say it more falls on the protagonist side because my antagonists tend not to have as much screen time. So it just if you just go straight percentages of the book, it's going to fall more with the protagonists just because they get a lot more pages in the book.
Honestly, a lot of times they are the antagonist, right? The antagonist is a little bit maybe too vanilla. And suddenly the opportunity arises to make them, at my camera, more interesting. So sometimes it's the antagonists themselves who becomes a completely different character from what I imagined. But I'd say for me, acknowledging what Patrick just said, it's probably about 50-50. Because I hate having antagonistic sides that have that are monolithic, right? I want them to feel like they're actual lived-in characters as well. So often they will get, I'll plop somebody in there who just liven them up.
I'd say for me, it's about 60-40 leaning toward the protagonist. But I've had characters pop up that I didn't know were the antagonist because I thought the antagonist was something bigger like the system, You have to say it like that. You have to.
Yeah.
And then you get a character.
We're obligated by law to say it like that. By the way,
exactly. There's a cop over here. But sometimes I get a character that is more specific as a representative of an aspect of that. And all of a sudden, I'm off to the races, and the story is richer for it. But yeah, I lean toward the protagonist just slightly, I think.
I mean, I get a lot of like the enemies of my enemies kind of thing going on. So,
that's fun.
On which way you look at it. I mean, I guess they're a good guy. I don't know.
Is it harder to write a colorful character on the antagonist side or the protagonist side for you?
Define colorful.
Like the tourist the tourist comes in, especially if they're the funny guy. I would imagine that's probably more on the protagonist side than on the antagonist side, right? So
I'm not funny. I can't answer that question.
I was thinking the same thing.
Unless you're Austin Powers.
But you know what I mean, like the different types of archetypes that these tourists inhabit, right? The different ancillary, types. Like you said, page 1 was the foil originally, right? So, did you find it was harder to kind of do that on one side or the other?
No, I actually ended up with a situation where I had to be careful not to make that emerging character more interesting than either of the original protagonists because he's that goddamn interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem. If a character is going to get a bigger role in my work, they've got to have some depth to them and they've got to have their own quirks. So I don't find a problem with that because if I'm expanding them, there's got to be something there to begin with. So
nice. Everybody's nodding, so I guess everybody agrees. All right. Which is what I was trying to aim for, but it's early and I don't have enough coffee in me to be succinct, so I apologize. But Andy says I had a crossover character protagonist from a different series in a recent novel that a reviewer commented should have his own series. I chuckled as that character can always steal scenes. And then the new book is from a series that further develops smaller characters into the main series, but the protagonist popped in and readers noticed. That's kind of cool. My antagonist liked to ham it up. I had to fight my pirate villain to let the MC have any page time. And my annoying Navy captain that was supposed to be a one and done turned into a good guy dating the MC's sister. There's a nice twist.
Nice.
All right. Speaking of nice twists, we have a nice twist for you here. As later today, we're going to be talking about March of the Writers. But for now, we're going to twist it right into the Indie Connection, which is fan of the Infernal Devices series. And CLCan's got a wonderful bunch of bookies. I'm guessing this is a steampunk. I don't know this book, or the series. I'm guessing it's a steampunk series because I just know because I saw the covers of the books that are coming. So enjoy this, and we'll be back to talk a little bit more and do the March of the Writers for y'all.
Hey guys, CL Caden here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of Cassandra Clare's Infernal Devices series, starting with Clockwork Angel. This is actually my favorite Cassandra Clare series. I have collected all of her books, been a huge fan for a long time, so I'm excited to bring you guys some indie books that are like these. So here we go. The first book I have for you is called Of Stars and Tides by Lachlan Blake. Geminis have been outlawed for over a century, until her. On the night of Cassie's 21st birthday, she realizes a terrifying darkness is lurking inside her, waiting to emerge. When she is taken by a group of zodiac demigods with magical powers, her entire life turns upside down. She learns her rightful place in a deadly prophecy, and in the war that could either save them all or destroy them all. Will Cassie be the last hope for the Zodiacs, or will she become their worst nightmare? Hero Stamos is in line to become the next Archon of the New Orleans arena. He's the perfect soldier, the best demon slayer, and the strongest Leo of them all. But when Cassie comes into his life, she threatens to ruin everything he's worked for, and Hero might just let her. In a rivalry against prophecies, war, love, and darkness, what is the cost for survival? The second book I have for you is called The Artist and the Anarchist by Harlow Banks. A mystery surrounds her heritage. Can she uncover why she's the target of villainous men before her life runs out of steam? Scotland, 1884. Amy Carter is eager to open a new chapter. An ostracized orphan celebrating her 17th birthday, the budding artist is delighted to leave her snobbish boarding school and return to her adopted family of inventors and scientists. But her happy immersion in mechanical experiments and a trip to London turns to dismay when she discovers she's been followed home by a stalker. As her godfather and his son rally to protect her with their inventions, Amy beseeches a lawyer to reveal her secret inheritance, but only receives a dire warning. And when her whirlwind journey through the marvels of France and Spain uncovers more mysterious clues, she fears the truth will only lead her deeper into peril. Can she unravel the deadly puzzle without getting ground up by the gears of intrigue? The third book I have for you is called Faye Lauren by Jenna Elizabeth Johnson. Haunted by strange visions, guarded by a captivating Fae warrior, hunted by a vengeful goddess. Megan Ilm has been strange her entire life. Her eyes have this odd habit of changing color, and she sees and hears things no one else can. On the eve of her 17th birthday, the visions and voices in her head grow worse, making her believe she's lost her mind. That is, until the captivating Cade McRorsch arrives with an explanation of his own. Cade brings Megan news of Ayla, an enchanted Celtic realm brimming with ancient magic. A world where whispering spirits exist in the very earth, and a place where Megan just might find the answers she has always sought. And the last book I have for you is called Kiss of Fire by Rebecca Ethington. One girl holds the key that could save all magic. It could also get her killed. Jocelyn spent her life in hiding after the dragon-like band appeared on her neck. No one knew what it was, but it sent her farther away and sent everything around her into chaos. 12 years later, her father returned with a warning about the mark and the claim that she is some secret link to a power that was lost centuries before. Jocelyn is sure it is nonsense, except now she is being stalked by a tall man who no one else can see. Both the brand and her father's sudden return must be connected, but there is more than one secret behind the mark. It's also the reason she's being hunted. Jocelyn is ready to leave it all behind when her friend Rylan finds her scar. Only he knows what it means, and who will kill her because of it. If she is to survive, she must trust not only the friend who has a secret of his own, but also the strangers that are following her everywhere. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye!
And as always, we thank CL Cannon for that wonderful Indie Connection. Looks like some really great books out there, so everybody go check those out. The links are in the description, as are the links for all of my guests here today and for the March of the Writers, which we're going to talk about here in just a moment, in a few moments anyway. I wanted to mention that the movie is called The Jesus Rolls, so if anybody would want to check it out, it's on Tubi. It's free on Tubi right now. It's not... It's panned very badly. So I'm just warning you all right now. And John Turturro himself, I literally pulled it up on Google, and John Turturro himself says he was not very happy with how the movie turned out. So, I'm just saying, I'm giving you the full scope for anybody who's anticipating, it to be the Big Lebowski. I'm just saying. So, but it comes to the rules. So if anybody wanted to check that out on Tubi. Anyway, Dennis Myers jumped in and he said that I recently taken a minor bad guy from my first series and put them on a redemption arc. and she was in prison for murder, and so she needs to learn that not all opponents need to die. 2 dead so far. So again, as always, that leads me into what I want to kind of wrap everything up with. So when we put these characters in prominent roles, right? When they put themselves in prominent, however you want to phrase it, however it goes, when they get into a prominent role, that means that typically a fate is going to be designed around them at some point, some way, right? So how do you reconcile that? Because you're going to either really upset readers because you're going to end up ending their lives, right? Or ending a life of something else, or doing something, different with that. But I mean, how do you reconcile the fate aspect of these characters? Do you think about that? Is that something you're thinking about when you make them more prominent? Is it something that, you relish? Maybe you get excited when characters, when you get to, kill a reader's favorite character. I don't know. I mean, it's up to you guys. But I'm asking, what happens for that? Do you reconcile their fate at all?
I'm not in charge. The story the story demands it. It's what makes the story work. And if it breaks my heart or makes people mad,
Tough noogie.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, the noogies happen.
Yep.
So, it's what the story demands. It's again, that's my job. My job is to make it work. And when the story says this needs to happen, and this is how it all ties together, and somebody's going to hate you, it is what it is. Because if you don't stick the landing on something, your readers are going to know. And sometimes they're going to be mad because you don't stick the landing, because you didn't take that risk. And I would rather have them be mad because I stuck the landing, because I took the risk, because I killed off who I need to kill off, or twisted something sideways, or whatever, than compromise on what the story needs.
Yeah, at the end of Stormforged, I was literally writing the end scene, which I had known since I started the book. And as I was writing, one of the characters took over the scene, and I was like, no, I have plans for you in the next book. And people, and I was sitting there crying while I was writing it. It was so, and people were like, and people were sending me emails and calling me and yelling at me, and I was like, sorry, that's how the story went. It had to go that way. I'm sorry, but we've done our job well when they're that upset that you killed a fictional character, because it's a person made up of words. And if you are having an emotional reaction to someone that I've created out of the ether that impacts your daily life because it upsets you or makes you happy or whatever, then I've done my job. And that's really what it is. We're in the business of selling dreams and experiences that you don't want to have in the real world. Because let's face it, nobody wants to lose their parents to, being killed in an alley so you can become Batman. Just doesn't happen.
Right. And just to reiterate the point that if you try to fight that, if you try to, do the thing that you think ought to happen instead of listening to the story, it sucks. I mean, we all probably have drafts out there that you read and you're like, all right, yeah, no, this doesn't work. And you have to go back and you have to be true to the story.
Yeah.
So I know I talk a lot about role-playing games and writing and things like that, and some places where they're related and some places where they're not. But NPCs do have a shelf life, right? And there becomes a point where you can't let that overshadow the players. In this case, you can't let them overshadow the characters. And you can't, once they reach that shelf life, you can give them the best death or outro that you want, but they've got to go, right? Because the main characters have to shine. So no, I don't have any problems with it. And I'll enjoy the end of a character if that character has been really great part of the story. Then giving them their good out or their good death or whatever it is in my eyes, kind of that's a happy ever after. Oh, look, so and so died heroically. Good for you, buddy.
Way to go!
I want to touch on one thing Claudia said real quick.
Yeah.
Claudia was mentioning fighting against your story, and I find when I start doing that, that's when I get writer's block.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I can't move forward, because I don't end up with editing it, because I literally will get stuck, and I'll just sit there and be like, until the story resolves itself. Because if I'm trying to force it to a certain direction, and the story's trying to go this way, no words come out. So, and I think that's why, when you've been writing for a while, you take these as happy accidents and not like, like, oh crap, I got to redo this whole. It's like, no, this is good. We're just going to follow this along, because then you will have a natural progression of a story. And let's face it, if we're surprised, you're surprised. So
yeah,
I'd rather have a done story than a clean house, because that's my go-to when I'm blocked. Yeah.
Nice. Vanessa's in Amsterdam saying hello to everybody. Hi, Vanessa.
hi, Vanessa.
And Dennis wanted you to know, Patrick, that he felt it.
Awesome.
I know he was one of the ones who yelled at me.
Awesome. Nailed it.
Andy says, I have a tendency to introduce new questions in Act 3 to continue the journey. My characters are on a continuing journey, but my endings have been called ambiguous. But that's how life is, isn't it?
Very much so.
And yes, I do know that, Andy, in the book I've read of yours. So, yeah. So, I mean, do you tend to grandiose that? Do you tend to enhance the outcome a little bit because now they've kind of embedded themselves in the story? Do you, like Sean was saying, do you give them the, hey, look, buddy, you're going to get a nice death now. Congratulations for getting in my head, you bastard. Is that kind of how it goes for you guys? Do you kind of, or the intention is, you know what, whatever the story dictates is what it's going to dictate, even if it is kind of lackluster?
Well, hopefully
I drive everything. Oh, sorry, Claudia, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I drive everything off emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key to my story. Emotion before plot, connection before plot, character before plot, everything. But it's emotion. I need the reader to feel what I want them to feel, and I do what it takes. And it doesn't matter whether it's somebody's death scene or people drinking tea. So, yeah, I don't think I try to specifically overdo anything. I just try to make the reader feel something.
Nice.
And overdoing is just as bad as underdoing. So,
and that's why you have ruthless beta readers who are like, really?
I'm just wondering if anybody had any just taking it out on that character for jumping in, the tourist. You know what? I'm just gonna kill you.
What the story demands.
Characters, yep. But there's been a couple of character deaths I've really enjoyed. They were annoying the crap out of me, and I was like, "Oh, good, you're dying! Yay!"
There you go. That's.
I killed you too quickly the last time. A mistake. I do not mean to duplicate.
Not a merciful God. I need to go get my Loki horns out and.
Oh God.
Ultimately, it sounds like we really enjoy the accidental tourists when they come into our preview. Is that fair to say for you all? Do you know, again, because you're all savvy writers, you all have done this for a while. Is that when you know you're on the right track, when these guys start to pop in for you? Do you feel that? Is that something you feel do you feel like, oh yeah, I've got momentum now. Here's the accidental tourist.
I mean, it doesn't always happen, but when it does, after my groan, because I know it needs more work, then I just embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree with that.
Sometimes it's a very loud groan.
It's an audible groan.
Sometimes it requires opening the bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what Paige said earlier. You're like, oh, no, you can't say that. That's not right. And then you're like, oh, damn it. Now I got to go back and I got to redo this and I got to go here and I got to do that. Oh. Yeah. But then you're like, you finish the book and you're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Awesome. Well, I feel like we've let the accidental tourist interrupt us quite a lot today. So everybody feel good about it? Anybody have anything they want to add about the tourist that I didn't cover? All right.
No, you did a great job.
So let's turn our attention to March of the Writers. We have our prompts for this week. I'm going to go through the prompts first, and then we're going to actually do one here. So this week, this is a really good week. If you're a March of the Writers fan and you haven't embraced it yet, I would say do number 1 and then go right into these, because these are really great. Number 10 is yay or nay, which is everyone's talking about AI. It's everywhere. So what are your thoughts on what it will bring for writing and art in general? And number 11, day 11, will be scam alert. Something I love about our community is that we watch out for each other as best as we can. And when someone is running a scam, you let people know. So what are the most common scams authors, old and new, need to keep an eye out for? And then number 12 is the instead of that. When you're treating your shelf, what influences you into getting into the book? And then number 13 is Dream Book Tour. Where are we going to see when you make it big? And then number 14 is Never Ending Writer Debate Part 2, Coffee or Tea. Us writers have an intense obsession with what we use to lubricate our writing sessions. That's what I lubricate for, sensations as well. What is your poison of choice? Number 15 is Tip of the Morning to you. We all learn different things from everything you've experienced. What advice would you share with people about writing, the business of writing, or life in general? And number 16 is the one we're going to do today for you, which is Uncharted Territory. And that is what we're going to talk about. Uncharted Territory, we often talk about what we've written and what our wheelhouse is. But what genres have you not explored yet, and you have an itch you want to scratch? So let's just go down the line here. Sean, why don't you start us off and tell everybody your genre and why? Give us a little why you want to scratch it.
So this will come as a surprise for some people, but actually romance, specifically like a sci-fi or romance, probably. The reason why is that as someone who's aromantic, exploring romance is a way for me to kind of explore my own psyche. I think it's a good way to deal with the daily issues I have and with relationships and stuff, and to have fun with that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm actually there's a contest now, I think, that I'm going to be submitting to, and I'm going to put in a sci-fi romance, and we'll see how it goes.
Nice, awesome. All right,
just
Claudia,
don't tell anybody I said that. Don't tell anybody I said romance. Sorry? Just don't tell anybody I said romance. Right.
Well, I mean, you just told our audience that, but that's up to I'll bury this video for you, Sean. So.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Claudia, how about for you?
I'm sorry. I like the romance too. I'd love to be able to do that and explore it a little bit more. Not for the same reasons, but it's the connectedness. It's the hope. It's the, having a pattern that you're able to replicate to get to your happy ending. Cause that's really a lot about what romance is. And I love that concept of it. And I can't write it. I would love to write it. Would love to explore it, but I don't know. There's always aliens that come in, or some kind of magic sword that suddenly appears, and then the romantic lead dies. So
happens.
All right. So what genre do you want to attempt, though?
Oh, see, I want to attempt romance, but I'm resisting it. How about that?
Okay.
Can I say it like that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, is there one that you have on the burner that you haven't done before for your readers out there, or you're just thinking about romance and not? No.
And then I'm so cross genre. Like I've tried a little bit of horror. I used to write horror. I write, some mystery and a little bit of suspense, right? So, and romance side plots. So I'm sort of like all over the place. So there are always aliens. So I think actually having a full blown romance with all the beats would be the next thing that I would try.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
How about for you, Patrick? What genre? You've dabbled in quite a few. So
Yeah, I've written something in just about everything. My new book has romantic elements in it, so I would jump on the romance wagon, but I'm going to say erotica because it sells, and it sells a lot. And those authors make a lot of money. So I think the problem is, and I've heard it from one of my best friends who writes romance and erotica, that it's the giggles. You have to. She says she just sits and giggles the whole time that she's writing her naughty scenes, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably outside my wheelhouse. So I think I'll stick with sci-fi and fantasy.
Nice. All right. How about for you, Paige?
I am actually sat down this week and started a horror short story, and I don't write horror.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's quiet horror because I can't do romance because I don't do HEA or HFN. I don't do happy endings. Spoilers. So for me, I'm gonna try horror, and a lot of it is because one of my favorite authors is Peter Straub. And there's a skill to that horror that is not about the gore. It's very psychological and very emotional. So thanks, Bob. Come to the dark side. I think I really want to give that a stab and try to do it as subtly as possible because I've read very few books that actually scared me, and but if something can make my skin crawl, that works for me. So I'm going to try that, and it's very much outside of what I do. So we'll see what happens.
I imagine that. Yeah, that would be amazing from you. I'd be like real excited to read something like that.
Well, thank you.
All right, for myself, I'm going to answer the question as well, and I've actually been thinking about this quite a bit. This is kind of funny that you all picked this, because I've been really, for people who don't know me out there or haven't had the pleasure of being, well, I don't know if it's pleasure, maybe disdain of being in my company, but I tend to curse like a sailor. I tend to I don't have filter. I don't like rules. I don't like being put in boxes. So it's kind of ironic that I really, really, really want to write a cozy mystery because I think I just like the idea of trying to follow some rules, try to follow and try to see if I can tame my own, my own weirdness and outwardness a little bit, and kind of stay in that box. And I think I like challenges. So, I think would be a serious challenge for me. So I have kind of been thinking about which one I want to go for and or which way I want to go with it and what I want to do. So maybe in a couple of years, you might see a cozy mystery from me. I don't know. I'm going to probably give it a shot. And, as soon as I drop the first F-bomb in the first paragraph, then I'm going to go, okay, yeah, this isn't for me. But, we'll see how it goes. I don't know. We'll see if I can pull it off. And like Patrick, I don't know if you've heard this, but cozies are selling like hotcakes as well.
Yes, I know.
So,
yes, right now they are.
So, I mean, maybe now's the time for me to jump on that because, and Bob says, hell yeah, cozy is where it's at these days. Yeah. So there you go, everybody. That's how you do it. I mean, you just get on the internets and tell everybody what you want to do and how you want to do it. It's very true. Yes. Yes. Anita's really good one. So, yeah. So, all right, everybody. So let's go around the room and tell everybody where they can find these lovely books and these lovely accidental tourists that you guys introduced us to today. We'll go just backwards. So, Paige, start us off, please.
I'm pretty much Paige L. Christie everywhere online, though I did have an incident. So my website is now pagelchristie.net, not pagelchristie.com, which is a long story, but I won't bore you with it. So pagelchristie.net for the website and Paige L. Christie everywhere on social media. I'm going to be at JordanCon the third week of April in Atlanta, and then Con Carolinas in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then at Multiverse in Atlanta in October. So that's my live appearances this year. They're few and far between, but you can come find me.
Awesome. All right, Patrick?
The easiest place to find me is Linktree/Patrick2. It gives you all my where to buy my books, where to find my newsletter, my website, all that fun stuff. I will be at Jordan Con, hopefully sitting next to Paige, like I was last year. Third week of April. The next week, I'm in Richmond for RavenCon, and Con Carolinas in Charlotte. First week of June. Congregate in July. GalaxyCon in July. DragonCon in August. Multiverse if I get in, and Deep South Con. So, along with 2 or 3 Comic Cons, I'm really tired. So that's where you can find me if you want to come. And I'll also be selling fun 3D prints. My newest one right now is the dragon head.
Ooh, nice.
So this is our new one for this season.
Gotta have it.
So I will have one for you, Paige. Just ping me and tell me what color you want.
Okay.
Nice. All right, Claudia.
ClaudiaBlood.com, and I am Claudia Blood or author Claudia Blood on most social media. So that's where you would come, is ClaudiaBlood.com. And I am going nowhere this year. Sorry, I still have small kids, so cons are really hard for me.
Well, someday we'll get you out. We'll get you out here.
Someday.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Sean?
Okay, so you can find all my writer stuff at thewickedboys.com. You can find me here on the Go Indie Now network with Zero Means You're Dead, which is our kind of 1 hour talk show about indie role-playing games. You can occasionally find me on Hit the Dice, where I'll GM or play a game for a couple hours just to get an indie game that will whet your taste. But also, you will find me at Jordan Con. I'm the sci-fi track director there. You will find me at multiverse.com. I'm the play track director there, and I'll also be at Deep South doing behind the scenes stuff. So,
yes, awesome. And hosting the show.
And hosting the show. You'll see me hosting the show very soon.
Yes, absolutely. And you welcome to Go Indie Now. You found us. If this is your first time here, awesome. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Smash that like button. Do all the wonderful things that you do, like subscribe and comment. We love that, and it helps us get seen by other people out there. So we really appreciate all of that. I, too, will be at Jordan Con. I, too, will be at Con Carolinas, and I will be at Dragon Con, and I will be at Multiverse, hopefully, if I also get accepted. And we'll see you all there. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful experience. And, if you've never met me before and you're going to be at these events, please come up and say hello. I don't bite usually, unless you want me to, but otherwise, thank you all for being here. And remember that it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.